It's time to fasten your seatbelt and rev up that engine. It's time to go on Pit Row. On Pit Row is your weekly look inside the world of NASCAR. Now live, here's the pit crew, Steve Ronkowitz and Charlie Turner.
Boogity! Let's go on Pit Row, boys.
Thank you, Daryl, DW, and thank you, the Backstretch Boys, our house band who plays that intro music. That's the Talladega Shuffle, by the way. Best CD of racing music you'll ever find, and you can go to the website and click on there and download it. I think they charge like $1 for the CD. It's just great. I'm Charlie Turner. Welcome, everybody, to our NASCAR Hangout live at NASCAR Hangout on Pit Row every week. As I said, I'm Charlie Turner. I'm joined by my buddies Steve Ronkowitz. Hello, Steve-O.
Howdy.
And Dan Beaver in West Texas. Dan?
Central Texas still. And how you doing?
Texas. I thought you were West Texas. Nope. See, Texas, I don't have that geography thing down.
It's a big state. I'm west of San Antonio, but this is still Central Texas.
Right. I don't think we'll be joined today by Beth Ann because we had to change the schedule up this week because of some things I was committed to, and I don't think she's going to be able to make it. But if she's been invited, if she can make it, also Bob Ellis, the contributor to On Pit Row Magazine, has been invited. I don't know if Bob will make it either. But we're here. If not, we've got a lot to talk about this week. Big race win for Brad Keselowski at New Hampshire Motor Speedway this past weekend. Any surprises there? I don't know who. Dan, you've got our picks from last week, right? Who did we pick?
I do have our picks from last week.
I don't think anybody took Keselowski. I know I didn't. I had Stewart, I think, who managed to get me a top 10, which is better than I usually do.
Yeah, you and Steve had Stewart. Beth had Denny Hamlin. I had Dale Earnhardt. So we all got top 10s.
We all got top 10s, but nobody top 5. So
yeah.
I think we all kind of discounted those Fords at New Hampshire. That was a mistake.
Well, they sure seem to have something figured out all of a sudden, but or at least a few of them. Seems like Penske's Fords have things figured out more than probably Roush's Fords, but you got a win thrown in there for Carl Edwards as well. But it sure as heck looks like other than Joey Logano being Morgan Shepherd, he would have as well done pretty good in that race. But they've got it figured out at least for the short term.
Well, that's why since you brought up the Joey Logano Morgan Shepherd tete-a-tete, let's talk about that and get it out of the way. Is Morgan Shepherd too old to be racing out there this week anymore? Do you think? Is Logano right, or is Logano just acting like a spoiled punk?
Well, did Logano ever say anything about his age? He didn't on TV unless he said something later. What he said was he got wrecked by the slowest car on the track. And I don't think he would have cared if it was 72-year-old Morgan Shepherd or 19-year-old Ty Dillon or 20, whatever he is. I think he's just pissed off because he got wrecked by a car that was going that slow, and the driver still couldn't manage to control it.
How about you, Steve? You're a big fan of racing for Jesus. What do you think?
I've seen a lot of old race car drivers, and I don't think, for the most part, they are any worse at driving than anybody else. The problem is that old race car drivers tend to be in old and or crappy-ass equipment. And when you get any driver in crappy-ass equipment, bad things happen. And that's exactly what happened to Morgan Shepherd. He was in a car that was too damn slow, and I don't know what happened to it, but something probably happened to it. And I don't care who was in the car, they probably would have wrecked. But James Hilton was in the ARCA series until just this last year at 70-something years of age. And
78?
Yeah, the only problem with him was that he had shitty race cars.
Yeah.
So, the same thing is with Morgan Shepherd. You go down to a local short track about 40 miles from here, and there's a guy who's been racing forever. He's 75 years old, has 75 wins, got his 75th win this year. So
I didn't know Frank Kimmel was that old.
No, Frank wishes he could get a win this year. That's been few and far between. That's a whole nother show. But, so I don't know that it's the age. But maybe NASCAR does need to look at the minimum speed and see if the minimum speed needs to be readjusted. And I think that's probably what most guys have said. post facto. Obviously Joey Logano was pissed off because he got wrecked out, and whatever he said was what he said off the top of his head. But I think most people at this point have just said, hey, maybe we need to take another look at what the minimum speed is.
Well, here's what happens, though. You start looking at things like minimum speed and that kind of stuff. And
giving away the champions provisional. I mean, on tracks like Daytona, Talladega, put 50 cars out there. You've got, another 13 cars to wreck and make people happy. On a short track, you don't need it to be quite as much. So I think maybe the onus should shift from what is a full field to what is a competitive field, and anybody that can make the minimum speed, so long as the track isn't so crowded you can't race, you obviously can't have 50 cars at Martinsville, then you're giving the fans one thing, taking away something else.
I think it's something that the RTA needs to decide.
Okay, let's go to that, because that story didn't go away this week just because we talked about it last week. There's still, when the announcement of the RTA first came out, it was I think NASCAR was surprised by it, because there was very little comment, and there's still been very little comment. I mean, Mike Helton said a couple things about it. We're going to continue to do things the way we do things because that's the way we do things, or something like that. But it was not really an answer to what's going on. I don't think that the France family knows what to expect from this RTA yet. And the comments I saw from what's his name, who's the Stewart's partner.
Gene Haas?
No, who's not Stewart's partner?
Brad Kaufman.
Rob Kaufman.
His comments were rather vague as to what they're trying to do with this as well. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, but the good news is their comments all may be vague, and NASCAR may be vague, but was it Bruton Smith that came out and just absolutely blasted it and said that he didn't like it and it was the worst thing in the world, and I don't know much about it. I always thought that was great. Everything I've read is everybody prequels everything they say, but I don't know much about this, but then they have an opinion.
Yep. Well, I think Bruton Smith basically said, talk to our lawyers. If you want to talk to the track, talk to our lawyers, is what I've gotten through the grapevine or through the... But if you listen to Rob Kaufman, it's basically just NASCAR's version of Groupon. So, hey, who can be upset with that?
Well, Jeff Gordon said, and you know how I like to quote Jeff Gordon. He said that there's nothing new here other than in name only. It really is, at least at this point, the owners haven't done anything different than they have been doing. They've been getting together for years and discussing ways to try and make more money, which is what this is all about, obviously, and to have more control, but they just never put a name to it.
Well, one of the more ludicrous things I heard from one of the talking heads during the race Sunday or pre-race Sunday was that these guys were going to get together and they were going to band together so that they could buy wrenches for less money, and stuff like that. It's like, oh, come on, give me a break.
Well, yeah, and one of the other things was they were going to try and be able to get hotels at less money and air flights at less money. And I thought one of the great responses to that was, if Rick Hendrick, who has 183 car dealerships and all these other businesses that he runs, if he doesn't have somebody on staff that can figure out how to get a goddamn flight for less than you or I pay, he's in damn big trouble.
Yeah, well, that's my Groupon comment. It's basically what they're, according to Kaufman, that's what they're trying to do. Color me skeptical. Whatever color that is. Green, apparently.
Apparently. Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, and the reason a guy like Bruton Smith would be anti this thing is up until now you've had the France family, and then you had SMI and ISC, the two big track owners, the ones that really own multiple tracks, majority of the tracks, and that's Smith and the other part of the France family, whatever part of that is. They really were the three groups that called the shots on most things. Sure, you can say that team owners have gotten together and talked about things, but there's really not been, a one voice type of thing for the teams, I don't think. And if they can actually pull this together and make it so, at least in certain situations. That does change. That tilts the table a different way.
Well, if Burton doesn't know anything about it, but he knows that he hates it, that suggests that that NASCAR isn't the only ones that the RTA has grumbled about or made some sort of overture that there are problems they want to fix. The track owners don't want the drivers organized. They don't want the team owners organized because they can come to an agreement with NASCAR, but coming to an agreement with NASCAR and the track or the car owners, now you've got a three-pronged stool instead of just it's a lot more to have to negotiate. So obviously NASCAR, the sanctioning body, isn't the only thing that the RTA wants to aren't the only problems that they would want to address.
All right, well, this story's not going away, and it'll be interesting to see when the first big issue comes up where these groups butt heads, because there will be one at some point. Probably, I would think it's going to come up when the rules packages are discussed, or maybe when they talk about, what track gets the next race or gets an additional race.
Or how you divide up the billions of dollars of TV money, which is probably what this is all about. If you look at it, where is the source of revenue coming from for team owners, and where is it likely to be increased from? And it's not from people sitting in the seats, but by the TV package. Where has baseball made their money? TV package. Where has football made their money? TV package. And that's where the one big source of income has not changed in any major sport. And I think that's where NASCAR as well. If you look at the owners, what could they possibly want? They want more of the TV revenue.
Yeah, I suspect that we're not going to know what is going on for a long period of time unless the RTA has gets a PR person that starts to push their agenda in the court of national opinion, public opinion. Then we're never going to know what they're up to. And the court of public opinion hasn't been exactly successful lobbying NASCAR on their side. We don't have a race at Iowa. Most people want one. We don't have more short track races. Most fans want some. I think a lot of fans are upset about restrictor plates. We still have those. So the court of public opinion, whether or not it's got the RTA on its side or the RTA has the public opinion on its side, I don't think NASCAR's going to keep doing what they're going to do. They're going to do what they want to do, and it's their court. The driver's going to have to, and owner's going to have to play in their sandbox.
Yeah, well, it's like I say, this story's not going away. I'm sure we'll revisit it several times as the year goes on this year. But let's move on. Let's go to something else. Kyle Busch was penalized for his lost championship points in the truck series for his truck failing inspection, post-race inspection, the last two Camping World Truck races. Now, Kyle Busch has been the dominant guy in trucks whenever he shows up, and in the Nationwide Series, most of the weeks when he shows up, just beating everybody like redheaded stepchildren. Has he been cheating, Steve? I know you don't particularly like the fact that he's able to go down there, but is he being more of a bully than even you think he is?
I think if you can cheat, you can keep the first place money other than your fine. You get to keep the trophy. What's the disincentive for cheating? Can you continue to cheat for 4 races in a row, 4 wins in a row, 5 wins in a row, 6 wins in a row, and then maybe NASCAR will do something? There's not a big reason not to cheat other than a fine of some sort, of points. Points aren't going to really, doesn't matter to him because they don't run.
Well, points only affect him in owner's points. I mean, they don't.
In owner's points, exactly. Right, it's not affecting him in driver's points, it's affecting him in owner's points, which may or may not be a big deal down the road. If enough points are taken away from him that he doesn't get on the, whatever the current version of the winner's circle is, that gets him more money, more show-up money, then it will start to hurt him. But the fines have to be big enough, the point penalties have to be big enough to be able to deter him from doing it. And it seems to me that if you're willing to cheat, and 2 weeks in a row, 2 different drivers in a the disincentive is not big enough.
Well, NASCAR they redid the penalty structure at the beginning of the year so that the more you get caught cheating, the more it's supposed to hurt. But the second instance doesn't seem to have hurt very much. So what was that all about? That pain resistance, regardless of what the amount is,
Right.
and because that's who he is. That's how he races. He races flat out, and he wants to win every chance he can get, and he's got the nerve to continue to try to walk that line. So I'm not sure that if you took away the entire purse money, if you took away the purse money times a certain amount of, times 2, times 3, something like that, then you're kind of creating a sliding scale that could work. You take away points times 2 or 3, then you're creating that same kind of sliding scale. So you're not hurting the driver who's just running around for last place money nearly as much as you are a driver that cheats and happens to win.
Well, the thing you have to look at too is that let's not necessarily pick on Norm Benning, but let's pick on Norm Benning. If you can give Norm Benning as many illegal shocks as you have in your warehouse, and Norm Benning is not going to win.
Norm Benning's going to sell them.
Right, exactly.
Sell them to Kyle Busch.
He'll sell them to Kyle Busch. Same thing. I mean, you look at T.J. Bell. You can give him every illegal rear end or every illegal whatever you've got, and he can put it in his truck, and chances are that he is not going to win, finish second or finish third. So NASCAR's idea of taking the top 3 or the top 2 back to the R&D department and checking things out and making them accountable, that would seem to make sense to me. And then you're not necessarily worrying about the Norm Bennings of the world. Let them cheat all they want. Never worked for Greg Fonts, for God's sakes.
He might be listening today. He's now on Facebook. He could be listening.
He could
be coming after you.
That's fine. He knows my number. But
all right, well, before we get to I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say, if you've got a back marker, chances are that giving him a couple of illegal parts or letting them use a couple of illegal parts or cheat, however it is not going to make the difference between a 20th place finish and all of a sudden throwing them into first place money. It's just not happening.
Yeah, but if you're that driver who ran 19th when they ran 18th, you're going to be really annoyed.
Yeah, well. Then I'll tell you what, give them the Smokey Yunick law and let them just cheat as much as they want until they get to the top 5.
That's what made NASCAR great. That's called innovation.
Yeah, I think that's what the rule should be every week. Okay, before we get too far, we're a little past halfway in our hangout here today. Let's do the Shell read. We do have the ability, for our Shell comment of the week, if you want a $50 Shell gift card, you can do this.
Just submit your Shell Saver Card comment of the day. You can take home a $50 Shell gift card. Remember, every time the Joey Logano driver, the 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford Fusion, wins a 2014 points race, Shell Saver Card holders save 22 cents per gallon on any grade of Shell nitrogen-rich gasolines or Shell diesel by using their Shell Saver Card. On the Wednesday after the race, offer valid up to 25 gallons. Visit shell.us/Wednesday for details. Morgan Shepherd is not allowed to use his Shell Saver Card.
And this is Wednesday. We moved our show back a day this week because of some scheduling conflicts, and I didn't get a chance to put up a specific Fast Lap question either. I just realized that. So just leave some comments on Facebook page or on our YouTube comments. I'll put a couple of questions up later on today that you can comment on, and whoever has the best, most entertaining comment will be the winner of that Shell.
Wasn't it great though that Brad Keselowski won both races at the Magic Mile? What a great weekend for him, being able to take that nationwide race and just absolutely win that, and then go and dominate on Sunday. God, I love that.
Well, and then he last night he was on Sullivan and Sons on TBS talking about his long winless streak and how he won during the episode of the comedy. So he just had it all going for him.
I don't watch much TV, but I did have that was on yesterday, and I saw that he was on there, and I know he was on that show last season as well. Was that a repeat, or was that a new?
That's a new one.
Was it a new
It's the
one?
second time he's been on.
So the timing on that was, they couldn't have timed that any better at all.
No, except that it was on against the All-Star race, the All-Star game, I think.
Well-
So they probably lost a few people there.
Well, they didn't lose too many people. I mean, I bet the All-Star game lost more people than Sullivan's Son lost in broadcast, because that thing's getting to be almost unwatchable. And although the home run derby is, I did put up in our show notes today about that we might talk a little bit of baseball today, since there was an All-Star game this week, Major League All-Star game. Did watch that a little bit last night. But the one thing we talk a lot about All-Star events, because NASCAR has 2 or 3 of them during the year, and NASCAR seems to try to mimic what MLB does, like with the home run derby kind of thing. And that home run derby has become an unwatchable event. Did either of you guys watch any of that thing? That
Not
was
a bit.
awful.
Yeah, I'm not a baseball guy.
I didn't. I am a baseball guy, Dan, and I didn't even turn it on. Had no interest in watching it whatsoever, because it is awful.
Yeah.
I watched it. I watched just enough of it to where I will probably not complain about NASCAR announcers for the rest of the 2014 season. Well, at least for another couple weeks, because Chris Berman is unwatchable. You talk about a guy. If Morgan Shepherd's not too old, Chris Berman is. He's too old to do what he's doing. He needs to be gone. He needs to go back out the door and get out of here. What an awful.
Yeah, that shtick on ESPN, that got old within a year.
Yeah.
And the corny nicknames, yeah.
He doesn't even do that stuff anymore. At least when he was doing the nicknames, he had to use a little bit of wit. He doesn't even have that anymore.
Well, they don't give him the writers anymore.
They're using him. I feel a little bit bad for him, as bad as he is. They're using him to fill time on this home run derby thing, which has become nothing but a time fill. They let these batting practice pitchers throw 50 pitches to get the guy to swing 5 times. It's like, how do you broadcast this? It was bad, really bad. I'll probably never watch it again. So
should they switch it to T-ball then?
We have this week. We had a little controversy with Jeff Gordon and Brad Keselowski kind of bitching back and forth at each other. Is that a big story or not?
Brad was right.
He's right because Jeff Gordon's always wrong.
I didn't even hear what the discussion was about, to tell you the truth. But I can tell you for one thing, Jeff Gordon is not right.
Jeff Gordon said if Keselowski really thinks that the Ford engines are down on power, he's full of a word that rhymes with wit. So I think Jeff Gordon, after trying to catch it to him on the straightaways at New Hampshire for 300 laps, has decided that there really is no problem with the power plants.
Well,
but
Steve,
I also suspect he meant it tongue-in-cheek, lightheartedly. It doesn't always come out across that way when reporters get a hold of it and put it in print. So
is it really come down to, is Keselowski just lobbying NASCAR to give him a little rope to compete with those mean old Chevrolets?
Well, hey, you're always looking for something. You'll take whatever they're going to get. So, isn't that cheating? I mean, that's just as much cheating as anything else, going to NASCAR and saying, hey, we're down on power, you need to give us more power. If you aren't, that's a form of cheating, I guess, right?
Well, it certainly is. We used to call it whining. I don't know if it's cheating.
Well, I guess it's only cheating if NASCAR says, oh, okay, well, we'll give you 50 more horsepower so you can catch up when you'd already caught up.
Yeah, that's sandbagging, but
yeah,
which I
same
suppose
thing.
is a form of cheating. Well, I don't know. Pool hustlers have been doing it for years, so.
Hey, it went on for years. NASCAR would give a 1/4-inch spoiler to this guy, and a 1/2-inch spoiler to the Buick, and try and do this and try and do that. And it was that those were the great old days of whining every week, and every week there was a rule change. Hey, that was great. I loved it.
Well, now they've got everything they've got everything even. I don't know that there's a whole lot more. The unintended consequence of the age of parity is that everybody is running the same speed. Everybody gets back on the lead lap. No driver left behind. I don't know.
Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's part of that same culture. And if you're a fan of the top 20 drivers, any of the top 20 drivers, then you've got a different perspective. And I certainly have a different perspective than most people because I'm trying to figure out who's going to win these things. So it annoys the heck out of me, but NASCAR's not trying to make me happy. They're trying to make the fans happy, and I guess they are.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I know we wanted to try to get out of here a little bit early because Steve has a TV gig he's got to do. So any last thoughts? We don't really have fantasy to talk about this week. There's no race this weekend. We will be going to the nationwide race in Chicago, the standalone there, along with ARCA. So we'll be sending some fresh stuff back from that. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully the weather will hold. That's always a fun track to go to.
No fantasy picks per se, but we will have that fantasy show coming up a little bit later. So anybody that watches this, make sure you check out the Dan Beaver's fantasy pit stop. I've got the only thing of note is only 2 drivers have back-to-back top 10s, Clint Boyer and Denny Hamlin, 2 kind of unlikely drivers with back-to-back top 10s in the last 2 races. Daytona really shook things up, so those drivers should be on your fantasy radar screen when we roll into another flat track in Indy.
That and the other thing is that Brad Keselowski and Dale Earnhardt Jr. have clinched playoff spots, if you will, as long as they make the rest of the races before the chase. So they are in. So you got 2 guys that are in, can't get out at this point.
All right. Well, that's pretty much it for our live NASCAR hangout here on Pit Row this week. Again, thanks to Dan Beaver. Dan, thanks down in Central Texas. And Steve O'Ronkowitz out in lovely Sylvania, Ohio, the City of Trees.
City of Trees and the home of the LPGA Marathon Classic this week.
Marathon Classic, that's right. Traffic is a little zany in Sylvania this week. So.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll be back next week, our regular day, Tuesday, unless something unforeseen comes up. Again, I'm Charlie Turner. You follow us all on Twitter. Steve is at Bench Racing. I'm at On Pit Row, and Dan, of course, is at Fantasy Race. Stay tuned for Dan's NASCAR Fantasy Hangout. That'll be coming up, or NASCAR Fantasy Pit Stop. That'll be coming up, too. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
You've just been on Pit Row, and now you're up to speed with the best information about the world of NASCAR. Come back next week and join the pit crew, Steve and Charlie, and go on Pit Row. On Pit Row is a presentation of Bench Racing Productions.
Hey, this is David Reagan, driver of the number 6 AAA Ford Fusion, and you're listening to On Pit Row.
This is On Pit Row. On Pit Row.